The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests do not state or reflect those of the movement. Sa history, marami ang nalilito kung ano ba ang tunay, ano ba ang kwento. Pakinggan natin ang mga dalubhasa. Intindihin ang kasalukuyan sa pag-aaral ng nakaraan. Tayo na't makilahok sa ating talakayan. Ito ang Historyl, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. Good evening to our listeners! Welcome na naman sa isang episode ng Historyl, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. Ako po ulit ang inyong host na si John Kevin Samson at muli kasama ko na naman po si Mr. Jamaico Ignacio para mag-co-host sa ating programa. Sir Jamaico!
Hello! Good evening po sa inyong lahat. Sana mag-enjoy kayo sa ating episode. Napakaganda ng ating episode mamaya-maya. Ito ay, for me, nakakataba ng utak. It will obviously enlarge your brains, lalo't lalo na napakaganda ng paksa natin for later.
Talaga namang napakaganda ng paksa natin. At salamat po sa ating mga tagapakinig. Recently, nagkaroon na po tayo ng 250 listeners. So maraming salamat po sa mga patuloy na sumusuporta sa ating programa at sa ating kilusan. And of course, without further ado, tama ka dyan, Sir Jamaico. In fact, our topic today is one of my personal favorites. Nung kami nagbe-brainstorm, talagang I found a way na maisisiksik natin itong usapang ito. And so, sige, ano nga ba ang ating topic ngayong gabi? Ngayong gabi pag-uusapan natin ang isa sa mga pinakamahalagang dokumento sa ating bansa. Bilang isang republika, sa mata ng batas, walang sino man ang nakahihigit dito at lahat tayo ay protektado nito. Mayaman ka man o mahirap, bata o matanda, basta Pilipino at ikaw ay nasa Pilipinas. Ito ay ang tinatawag na the highest law of the land. Kaya pag-uusapan natin ngayon ang ating saligang batas, the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. At para tulungan tayong intindihin ang iilang aspeto, ang kasaysayan at ang mga terminolohiya sa ating konstitusyon, nais kong ipakilala sa inyo ang ating bisita. Siya ay isang junior legal sociologist and a legal scholar currently engaged in data privacy and data protection practice. Siya rin ay isang mananaliksik at sinasangguni sa larangan ng financial crimes, lalo na sa mga may kinalaman sa anti-money laundering, anti-fraud, anti-bribery, and anti-corruption. Isa rin siyang part-time instructor sa Department of Sociology and Anthropology of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. Siya ay nakapagtapos ng Bachelor of Science in Sociology with a minor in Anthropology mula sa Polytechnic University of the Philippines at kinalaunan ay nag-aral din siya ng Juris Doctor degree in Law sa University of the East Manila. Kamakailan lamang ay nakapagtapos siya ng certificate course in International Human Rights Law at the Florida State University as an International Bar Association Scholar.
Wow!
His research interests involves the study of political ponerology, corruption, privacy, surveillance, constitutional and international law, as well as studies on contemporary and social-legal history. Mga kaibigan at giliw na tagapakinig, the Vice President for Professional Affairs of the High School Philippine History Movement, Mr. Emmanuel Caliwan, Juris Doctor. Sir, good evening po.
Magandang good evening, sir.
Good evening. At maraming salamat sa napakagandang introduction. Yan yung tinatawag namin na yabang portion wherein you discuss all of your achievements. But again, traditionally, I consider myself as a student of law, particularly of the Constitution. At ngayong gabi ay susubukan nating pag-aralan muli kung ano ba tong constitution kasi napaka-importante niya lalo na ngayon sa panahon na minsan ay tinitingnan na lamang natin na isa lamang siyang papel na walang kapangyarihan sa ating buhay. Pero sa totoo lang, ang konstitusyon ang nagbigay sa atin ng maayos na buhay na itong tinatamasa nating mga karapatan.
Tama nga po yun, no, Sir Eman. Actually, hindi naman sa sinakto natin ito. To be fair, these topics had been conceived a long time ago. Hindi naman sa sinakto natin. Pero recently, isa rin sa mga kagalang-galang na constitutionalist ang pumayapa. Sumama na sa bisig ng ating may likha, si Father Bernas ng Society of Jesus. At so, biglang, kumbaga parang biglang nataon na ito yung pinag-uusapan natin. Isa siya sa mga nire-respeto. I believe that many law students, if not all of them, know who Father Bernas is.
It's one of the framers of our Constitution, after all.
Actually, that is true.
Isa siya na sa larangan ng batas, hindi lamang siya constitutional scholar, na nag-aaral ng batas, siya rin ay tinatawag na amicus curiae o tinatawag na friend of the court. So in case na ang Supreme Court ay may mga bagay na hindi gaanong naiintindihan ukol sa ating konstitusyon, isa si Father Joaquin Bernas sa tumutulong upang maging mas malinaw ang ibig sabihin ng mga probisyon ng konstitusyon.
Tama 'yun. And kaya it's a big loss. It's a big loss in our legal field that Father Bernas has been taken away from us. But of course, ganun nga yun. We all live with borrowed time. And speaking of framing the Constitution, as Father Bernas is one of those who framed our 1987 Constitution. He was there when it was conceived. So, Sir Eman, paano nga ba na likha, no? So how was the 1987 Constitution conceived? And under what spirit was it conceived?
So yung 1987 Constitution, napaka-historical nung pagkakagawa ng konstitusyon. Kasi matatandaan natin na bago ang 1987 Constitution, tayo ay nasa ilalim ng 1973 Constitution. O ito yung tinatawag na konstitusyon na nilikha sa panahon ng diktatorya ni Marcos. Okay? So sa 1973 Constitution, ang lahat ng kapangyarihan, legislative man yan o executive, ay nasa isang tao lang, kay Marcos. At dahil doon, gawa niyang kontrolin pati ang judiciary at nabawasan ang mga karapatan ng mga tao, lalo na yung mga karapatan na tinatamasa natin ngayon sa 1987 Constitution. So, historically, nagkaroon ng snap election dahil hindi na gusto ng tao ang matagal na pamumuno ni Ferdinand Marcos under 1973 Constitution. So, sa snap election na yon, nangyari noong February 15, 1987, si Marcos pa rin ang nanalo at siya ang diniklara ng batasang pambansa. Ito yung constitutionally deputized body para i-canvass yung election return. At ang ginawa ng Chief Justice noon na si Ramon Aquino, automatic February 25, nag-swore in ulit si Marcos bilang presidente. Ito ay technically ay pang-apat na termino niya na. Kasi under 1973 Constitution, nanalo siya ng isang beses. Under 1935 Constitution, kung saan pinapayagan ng isang presidente ng dalawang termino, tag-apat na taon, tanging si Ferdinand Marcos lang ang tumakbo ng 2 beses. So, yung pangatlo niya, yung 1973, itong dulo ng 1973 Constitution, gusto niya ulit na makaupo. At yun nga yung stop election. Pero dahil sa pagnanasa ng mga tao para sa kalayaan at ibalik ang tunay na kapangyarihan sa mga mamamayan na yun ang esensya ng demokrasya, si Corazon Aquino, ang namayapang presidente Corazon Aquino, ay tumiwalag. Kasama na rin yung mga nasa militar, si Enrile at si Ramos. At si Court Associate Justice Claudio Tehanqui. Nung parehong araw ng February 25 of 1987 ay sinorin niya rin itong si Corazon Aquino. At doon sa kanyang panunumpa, hindi nanumpa si Corazon Aquino under the 1973 Constitution. Nanumpa si Corazon Aquino under popular proclamation. At nireject niya yung kapangyarihan ng Batasang Pambansa, ng COMELEC, at nireject niya rin yung Supreme Court. Kasi ang sinasabi niya, ang tunay na kalayaan, yung acclamation ng tao, siya ang nanalo. So nawala yung 1973 Constitution, bumaba si Marcos sa kapangyarihan, nagkaroon tayo ng tinatawag na interregnum period. Yung walang panahon na walang ang konstitusyon. Kasi nagkaroon ng revolusyon na wala ang 1973 Constitution. So nung interregnum, 1986, ginawa yung tinatawag na Constitutional Commission, kung saan kasama nga doon ang namayapang si Father Joaquin Bernas SJ. So, isa sila, ang kanilang mandato ay lumikha ng isang konstitusyon na maglalaman ng karapatan na ipinaglaban during the EDSA Revolution sa pagpapatalsik sa diktador at i-abrogate yung ginawa ng 1973 Constitution na nasa isang tao lamang yung kapangyarihan. Siya na yung nagpapatupad ng batas, siya pa yung gumagawa ng batas. Kaya mapapansin nyo sa ating legal system, may mga tinatawag na presidential decree. Yan yung mga ginawa nung panahon ni Marcos in his power as the legislative officer. At the same time, siya rin ang presidente na nagpapatupad ng mga batas na yon. So, yun yung mga bagay na nagbunsod sa 1987 Constitution. So, masasabi natin na ang 1987 Constitution ay konstitusyon na ginawa para pigilan ang kapangyarihan ng gobyerno. So, yung 1997 Constitution, ginawa siya para magkaroon ng demokrasya, ma-institutionalize yung demokrasya, at ma-institutionalize yung mga rights na tinatamasa natin ngayon, katulad ng right to peaceably assemble, of course, right to freedom of expression. Yun yung mga karapatan na in-institutionalize sa Bill of Rights ng 1987 Constitution. So, if I may, since I really love historical, legal historical work, I have here what Cecilia Muñoz Palma, siya yung presidente ng 1986 Constitutional Commission, paano niya dinescribe yung 1987 Constitution. So, sabi ni Justice Cecilia Muñoz Palma, this is a nationalist constitution which prohibits foreign military bases beyond 1991 except under certain condition in which outlaws the stationing of nuclear weapons on our soil. So, wala na ang American power at wala na rin yung nuclear weapon. It carries the mandate for social justice, including land reform and labor rights beyond the limits of the previous constitution. Kasi dati hindi na institutionalize yung social justice at yung konsepto ng land reform and labor rights. It empowers the people to amend the constitution and to pass their own law if desired. It dissolves the power of Imperial Manila to the provinces and cities in the hinterland in a clear reversal of the colonial policy of over-centralization. Kasi nga, nung panahon ni Marcos, naka-over-centralize sa Imperial Manila, sa kanyang mga technocrats yung kapangyarihan. It raises family solidarity to the level of constitutional policy. It demilitarized the police. So ang police ay hindi siya military force, it is a civilian force. Pero of course, we know na mayroong mga issue ngayon. By restricting martial law powers, the Constitution has made the draconian option unattractive for any government. So dati mabilis lamang ang power of martial law. Sa 1987 Constitution, because it's a freedom constitution, maraming requirements bago ka mag-declare ng martial law. And finally, sinabi ni Cecilia Muñoz Palma, the Constitution has attempted to institutionalize people power by providing for the right of the people's organization to be consulted at all levels of decision making. So ang kapangyarihan na ibinalik sa tao dahil naging bahagi na sila ng decision making. It built into the electoral process a party list system capable of seating the representative of marginalized group in Congress, beginning with appointed sectoral representative. So kahit na yung konsepto ng sectoral movement, yung party list, ay ininstitutionalize sa 1987 Constitution. So maraming mga right provisions sa 1987 Constitution kaysa sa nauna nating Constitution, lalo na yung 1973 Constitution.
Okay po, no? Salamat. In fact, if I remember it right, in the preamble of our Constitution, it states there that we, yun yung unang-unang linya we, the sovereign Filipino people. So talagang pinapakita rito na talagang it's the people who are sovereign in this country. In fact, if I may share, no, when I was watching, nanonood kami minsan ng The Crown. The Crown, yun yung parang yun yung it's a drama Netflix series about the life of the royal family. And it shows there that the queen is the sovereign of their country. And then siguro thinking aloud, I asked, buti pa sila, no, meron silang sovereign who decides. And then I asked, thinking aloud, I said, sabi ko nga sa fiancé ko, I said, dito sa Pilipinas, no, sino bang sovereign natin? And she was the one who answered me, isn't it that the Filipino people are sovereign? Di ba nasa Constitution? And that's right, no, that's the beauty of our Constitution. The power is within the people. And of course, in recent years, it may have been perversed, if I may say so, no. But I believe there is the spirit, the spirit of our Constitution, the spirit of the democracy that it embodies is the one that is important. Of course, talaga namang may mga taong sasamantalahin nila yung kahinaan ng demokrasya. In any form of governments naman may kahinaan, and in any form of governments naman may mga nananamantala. And it's our right and even our duty to stand up for these to stand up for our Constitution, for our democracy, especially in a republic, no? Sa isang republika, the law is king, no? I can't remember who said that. I'm not the one who said that. It is someone else, no? I only quoted. I'm sorry, I can't remember. So hindi po ako na-plagiarize, no? I am stating, hindi ko maalala kung sino nagsabi nun. But in a republic, the law is king, no? Hindi na tayo nabubuhay sa isang lipunan na may hari na nagdidikta, na tulad nung sa 1973 Constitution, sabi niyo nga, no? All the power is vested to the president. It seems he is judge, jury, and executioner. Talagang authoritative yung Constitution na yun. I think nabanggit nga in one of our previous podcasts na ang basis nito ay yung libro na Constitutional Authoritarianism, no? That's yes. That's a term that I cannot forget, na may ganun pala. Constitutional authoritarianism. So
tama.
Wait lang, naalala ko lang ngayon, pumasok sa isipan ko, yung nagsabi ng the law is king ay si Thomas Paine, one of the American philosophers that paved the way to the democratic American state.
That's right. Yes, Thomas
Paine.
Yes, naalala ko 'yan. Ginawa ko yung quotable quote sa Facebook eh. Wala lang. Those were the times na talagang, kasi I mean, in recent times, let's be honest, let's be frank. Talagang nagkakaroon ng if I may say so, no, nagkakaroon ng parang hindi pagsunod sa ating mga saligang batas. It appears that one man is higher than actually not just one man, parang grupo sila na parang they're above the law, which shouldn't be. Diba? Pero yes, and yun nga, what do we do as people? And this is our Constitution that that is under attack. Sabi nila, no, that is under attack. Pero yun nga, so we really have to be guardians of our Constitution. That's one of our responsibilities, diba? And speaking of responsibilities, Sir Eman, siguro lang, maybe hindi naman lahat, pero perhaps what are the most important responsibilities of the people and the state regarding the rights granted by our Constitution. So ano yung mga siguro mahalagang karapatan natin na binibigay sa atin ng ating saligang batas? At ano yung responsibilidad ng Estado sa tao kaugnay sa mga karapatan na ito?
So, basically, the Constitution, the 1987 Constitution, contains both. May tinatawag tayo na the political structure, which is provided for under the 1987 Constitution. Yan yung ating national government and the local government. The national government, ito yung ang obligasyon ng national government, may tinatawag na principle under constitutional law, yung parens patriae. It is the government who should be acting as the parent. Okay? And as a parent, basically, kailangan niyang bantayan at pangalagaan yung life, liberty, and security ng kanyang citizen. So, yun, yung pinakaunang obligasyon ng Estado, ng gobyerno na kumakatawan sa Estado. At syempre nakalagay rin sa 1987 Constitution, particularly sa Bill of Rights, yung mga karapatan ng mga mamamayan, yung ini-enjoy niyang karapatan under the protection of the 1987 Constitution. So, alam natin na yung mga basic na karapatan na yon, yung freedom of expression, ilabas kung ano man ang iyong saloobin at ang iyong mga hinaing sa gobyerno nang walang takot na babalikan kanila. Bakit ka nagrereklamo? So, yun na isa sa karapatan. Isa pa sa karapatan is to peaceably assemble. Kung gusto nyong magsama-sama upang idulog ang kung anumang mga hinaing at ang inyong mga problema, ay karapatan yan. So, isa yan sa mga institutionalized sa 1987 Constitution. At dahil nga, ang obligasyon ng gobyerno ay maging isang magulang. Diba, in a common family, in a common household, the parents are there to listen and to help out, diba? Pero sa ngayon hindi natin nakikita ang pagiging parents patriae ng gobyerno. Dahil nga it's been pervaded, yung konsepto ng democracy at ng government has been pervaded. And if I may share, kanina I attended a webinar sponsored by Tokyo and Hiroshima University. Ang mga tagapagsalita doon ay si Professor Carlos ng UP at si Professor Tihanki ng De La Salle. Nandun din si Professor Corato ng Canberra University at ang topic ay yung leadership style ng current president at yung analysis nila. At yun nga, makikita doon na hindi may problema ang appreciation ng ating current government kung ano ang function ng Constitution. Kasi Constitution regulates the government and how it interact with the citizen. Pero sa ngayon, hindi ganun yung nangyayari. And that's really problematic because again, what's the purpose of the Constitution is to help out. This is the guide on how we should live within a civilized nation. Karapatan mong mabuhay, a life, right for life, liberty, and security. Pero sa ngayong panahon, hindi ganon yung nararamdaman ng mga tao. Yung kanilang right to life is imperiled because of the issues of extrajudicial killing.
Yeah,
and even lawyers are being afraid now because they cannot champion the rights and the causes of their client because they are being ostracized and they are being tagged as protectors of the red when they are just protecting the rights of the people for their life, liberty, and security. So, yun yung mga aspeto na dapat nating tignan sa 1987 Constitution. At kailangan nating i-empower yung right na binigay ng 1987 Constitution. Kasi that's also the obligation of the people to be part of the body politics. Makiisa at pumuna. Kasi ang pagpuna ay bahagi ng political process. Kasi kung hindi ka magpupuna, iisipin ng mga nasa taas na tama yung ginagawa nila. And a citizen is given the right and given the obligation to protect the Constitution.
Yeah, actually, nakakabahala nga yung parang it's the social contract of our yes, government yes. To the people na eto yung batas, sumunod kayo sa batas, poprotektahan namin kayo. Poprotektahan namin yung buhay nyo, yung kalayaan nyo, yung seguridad ninyo. Pero I mean, if you hear these yung mga shoot to kill orders, that's definitely not taking care of life.
Yes.
Parang I mean, what kind of parent, no, yung pagbabantaan yung anak niya na bariling kita dyan. Parang shoot them dead. That's so ito ba ay breach ng constitution even with, you know, I mean, maraming beses nang napagtanggol ang ating current president. Nasasabihin ito yung kanyang rhetoric, ganyan lang siya magsalita. Pero ito ba ay breach ng constitution nung kanilang responsibility na dapat you are protecting the people's life. Yun nga yung una dun sa listahan, life. And another thing, yung 'di ba, when the people's life are at stake. We wanted, for example, last 2020, we asked for a travel ban kasi nga meron ng danger nung pandemic. And granted, the travel ban may not have stopped the virus from entering kasi airborne nga raw 'di ba? But syempre may mga taong carrier that we could have stopped, we could have controlled earlier with a travel ban. By not putting up a travel ban, has that put the people's life and security in danger? And if so, is that do you think that that is a breach of the Constitution and of public trust?
For me, it's not just a breach, no? It is a grave violation of the constitutional mandate. Kasi ang konstitusyon ay clear. So, you need to protect the life of the citizen because without your citizen, there is no state at all. And their life, liberty, and security are the paramount obligation of the government. So, ang inaction ng government during the time that he should act in haste by implementing a travel ban can be construed legally as a grave violation of the Constitution. And it is an impeachable offense, if I may say. Pero alam naman natin na the impeachment is a political process wherein masyadong malakas yung kaalyado ng ating Pangulo at hindi rin magkakaroon ng impeachment. Pero isa rin to sa nung nawala si Father Joaquin Bernas kasi si Father Joaquin Bernas isa sa mga pinakasikat niya aside from writing constitutional law books that is being read by law students and law scholars. He also wrote a series of book. Ang title is A Living Constitution. Ito ay ang kanyang pag-aanalisa sa different periods of the presidency. So nagsimula yung kanyang A Living Constitution series kay Marcos. So meron siyang Marcos, Cory Aquino presidency, at makikita mo doon na binabangga ng namayapang constitutional expert na si Father Joaquin Bernas yung constitutional provisions na nangyayari sa lipunan. Dahil mahina na si Father Joaquin Bernas nung umupo si Duterte, wala nang nagsulat nung A Living Constitution. Pero pupusta ako na kung buhay pa at malakas pa si Father Joaquin Bernas, isa sa mga issue ng libro sa A Living Constitution of Duterte presidency ay yung kapabayaan ng gobyerno para i-secure ang buhay at ang seguridad ng kanyang mamamayan. Kasi yun nga yung paramount requirement. And that's really saddening kasi kung titignan yung balita, may mga pronouncement din si President Duterte na parang toilet paper lang daw ang Constitution. As a lawyer, he's a lawyer, and basically in the legal community, nakakasama ng loob yun. Kasi yun yung paramount basis of who you are. You're a lawyer, and your obligation, kasi may tinatawag na legal ethics, is to protect the Constitution. So, hindi lamang siya in breach of his lawyer's oath to protect the Constitution and to abide by the contents of the Constitution, is also in grave violation of the Constitution, being its president, the commander-in-chief.
Oo, tama. Curious lang ako. Since 'di ba, he's president, he is immune from persecution unless unless ma-impeach siya, no? But is he also immune from disbarment?
Basically, there are cases submitted to the Supreme Court kasi it would be a violation of the procedural requirement. So, kailangan talagang ma-impeach siya bago siya ma-disbar. Kasi kung requirement sa office yung license to practice law, basically hindi na siya makapag-practice ng law. In this case of the President, if I may submit, ang effect lang naman kasi ng disbarment is hindi na siya makakapag-practice ng law. But the Constitution provides that the President cannot really practice law. So technically, if it because it's not yet finally decided in the case of a president, pero pwede naman siyang ma-disbar without his license. He's still the president.
Tama. And the Constitution does not even require naman that a president has to be a lawyer, diba?
Yes,
so
yes,
even disbarred, it wouldn't matter, no? Na he's still president. That's the constitutional function. That's his constitutional provision. So,
and
yun nga lang.
If I may just add, an impeachment is a sui generis proceeding. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya criminal, hindi siya civil, hindi siya administrative. So, technically, ang pinoprohibit naman kasi ng ang protection for the immunity of suit is either criminal, civil, or administrative. So, yung disbarment is sui generis. So, technically, I would submit that the president can be disbarred. Pero, anong effect nun? Pag na-disbarred ka kasi, it is assumed and it's in record that you have committed a crime with moral turpitude. Yan ang sikat sa mga lawyer eh. Para ma-disbar ka, kailangan masabi na yung ginawa mo is a transgression of the moral precept, yung may moral turpitude, may kahalayan, walang integrity, and ang ina-admit lang kasi dapat sa practice of law yung mga taong may integrity at yung moral precept nila ay strong. And if that's the case, yung disbarment niya should lead to an impeachment. Because an impeachment, any violation, grave violation, gross violation of the Constitution. And all gross violation of the Constitution has an element of moral turpitude. Merong konsepto ng wala kang integrity, wala kang the moral core for you to become a lawyer in that sense.
Constitutionally pala medyo overreaching na ang ating current president. Pero yun nga sabi mo nga, it's a two-way street, no? It takes two to tango. It's not only the government's responsibility to ensure that it is able to fulfill its social contract under the Constitution, but it is also our responsibility as people, as the sovereign, to make sure that we are empowering ourselves by empowering the Constitution. At talaga nga namang napakahalaga na that's right, no? Hangga't walang kumikilos talagang magpapatuloy siguro yung mga pang-aabuso sa ating saligang batas. Kaya naman talagang
in a way, yes.
Oo, it's also our responsibility as people to look after ourselves. After all, this is the people's constitution. At
That's
ito ay ating saligang batas, kailangan natin ito protektahan. Okay. So, napaka-interesting ng ating mga usapan, no, kasama ang ating bisita na si Sir Eman. At mamaya sa ating pagbabalik, meron pa tayong ipagpapatuloy sa ating pag-uusapan sa ating 1987 Constitution. Kaya't huwag kayong aalis, magpapahinga muna kami at magbabalik mamaya ang History Reel, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. We're back! Salamat po sa paghihintay sa ating mga tagapakinig and muli ang kasama natin na bisita para talakayin ang 1987 Constitution ay si Mr. Emmanuel Caliwan, Juris Doctor. So kanina pinag-usapan natin ang spirit at ang kasaysayan ng 1987 Constitution at ang mga karapatan at responsibilidad ng Estado at ng tao na nakasulat at nakasaad sa ating saligang batas. Ngayon naman po tutungo tayo sa napaka-partikular na katanungan. No? Isa sa mga bagay na siguro ay hindi masyadong natatalakay sa atin at siguro may mga maraming hindi nakakaintindi. Ako mismo hindi ko masyadong naiintindihan kung ano ba itong sistema na nakasaad sa ating saligang batas. Pero ito ay nabanggit sa ating diskusyon kanina. So, Sir Eman, no, just to clarify, according to our Constitution, how does the party list system work? And what would happen should our Congress decide to abolish this? Bakit ba tayo, in the first place, may mga party list system? And siguro maganda na rin i-differentiate. Ano yung pinagkaiba ng party, yung mga partido, Liberal Party, Nationalista, PDP Laban, ano yung pinagkaiba ng mga partido na ito sa party list? So, pareho ba sila? Magkaiba ba sila? So, how does this work? Bakit nga ba mayroon tayong party list system? How does this work? Paano nagiging party list ang isang grupo? And paano sila nagkakaroon ng pwesto sa ating kongreso?
Okay. So, una, syempre kailangan nating i-historicize bakit may party list system. So, yung party list system, again, this is a new creation of the 1987 Constitution. So, 1973, 1935 Constitution, wala tayong party list na tinatawag. So, ang aim ng party list, sabi ni Joaquin Bernas sa kanyang libro, ang reason kung bakit nag-introduce ng party list system, it is hoped that the system will democratize political power by encouraging the growth of a multi-party system while at the same time giving power to those who traditionally do not win an election. So, yun yung aim ng party list, i-democratize. Bigyan ng kapangyarihan yung mga hindi na nanalo sa normal election, sa district representation. So, kaya may party list. Ang kanyang target ay makapag-upo ng mga mamamayan na walang political machinery. Particular yung mga sectoral group, magsasaka, manggagawa, trabahador, yung kabataan, yung mga senior citizen. So yun yung mga sectoral group na walang boses. Hindi nila kayang makipagsabayan sa traditional political party. So to answer yung question, yung Liberal Party, yung PDP Laban, yung Party List ni Villar, Nationalista, basically they are what we call political party. This political party have the machinery. They have a nationwide scope. And ang difference niya sa party list, si party list ang agenda lamang ay mag-represent ng mga sektor na walang political machinery. Pero sa ngayong sistema, ang nangyayari ay yung malalaking political party, gumagawa sila ng sectoral wing. At yung sectoral wing nila ay ginagawa nilang party list. So it's a contravention of the aims and objectives of the 1987 Constitution as provided in Article 6, Section 4 of the Constitution. Doon kasi nakalagay yung party list system na bigyan ng representation yung mga tao na walang boses sa political system. Yun nga, yun yung promise niya kasi na isama lahat ng mamamayan sa political process. At para magawa niya yun, gumawa siya nitong legal concept which is the party list system.
So in essence, no, parang yung party list, yung mga party list, sila yung mga, for example, kasi sa Congress meron tayo nung mga district Congress representatives, yes. No, for example, sa Quezon City, since we have 6 districts, merong 6 na representatives ang Lungsod Quezon sa Kongreso. And of course, yung mga representatives na ito ay they represent their constituents. So for example, Kit Belmonte of District 6 represents the Quezon City Q citizens, yan ang tawag nila sa mga citizens nila. Yung mga Quezon City citizens ng District 6. Yun ang representation ni Representative Kit Belmonte. Pero the party list the aim of the party list is to represent those people who do not belong specifically or who do not belong in that general population. Is that right?
Basically, they still belong kasi pag bumoto ka naman, bumuboto ka ng party list at bumuboto ka ng iyong district representative. Basically, ang idea kasi niyan kung bakit may district representative, yun yung konsepto ng Republican eh. People are represented by their elected official. Na ang sasabihin dapat ng elected official ay yung hinaing ng kanilang mga constituent within a particular geographical location. Ang party list, ang nire-represent nila ay marginalized and sector-based. So kung ang sektor mo ay sektor ng kalusugan at representative ka, naging party list representative ka, dapat ang agenda mo sa paggawa ng batas ay yung hinaing at pangangailangan ng iyong marginalized sector para sa kalusugan.
Okay.
Kasi syempre ang gagawin ng Quezon City, ang priority niya ay para sa mga mamamayan ng Quezon City. Magkaroon ng public school sa Quezon City. Gumawa ng batas para magkaroon ng public school sa Quezon City. So, doon nakita ng mga framers ng 1987 Constitution, paano yung sektor? Sinong magre-represent sa kanila? Yung mga magsasaka. Kung ang sinasabi, kung ang mga magsasaka sa isang distrito ay kakaunti lamang, 1% lamang ng populasyon, hindi sila ang priority ng kanilang district representative. So kailangan ayon sa framers ng Constitution at nakalagay na nga sa 1987 Constitution, nabigyan natin ng boses yung mga sektor na walang boses.
So yung ating mga district representatives, it's more on yung geographical na nasakop nila, while yung party list representatives, it doesn't really matter kung nasaan ka sa Pilipinas.
Yes.
In fact, I think kahit wala ka sa Pilipinas, basta Pilipino ka, may party list na nagre-represent sa'yo eh. Or when nag-a-attempt to rep.
Yes.
So yun is sectoral, no? Hindi siya geographical. So kahit nasaan ka sa Pilipinas, if this party list represents, let's say, mga farmers, it represents farmers. If this party list represents fisher folk, it represents fisher folks. If this party list represents teachers, then it represents teachers kahit nasan ka pa sa Pilipinas. Kasi may mga sabihin natin may mga distrito nga na wala, kakaunti lang, or baka nga wala sila nung mga ganong constituents. For example, sa Quezon City, the district representatives may not be able to push agendas of farmers or fisher folk kasi pwedeng konti lang, or baka nga wala kasi the geographical location does not cater to our farmers and fishers and maybe other sectors. So that's how and party list system works. And yung sinasabi nyo, yung may mga malalaking partido na meron silang mga party list wing, so that's allowed, no? I mean,
it's a contravention kasi when I say contravention, ang Constitution kasi natin may mga enabling law. So may mga provision ng Constitution that it's not automatically enabled. So kasama doon ang konsepto ng party list. So the Constitution provides for the legal concept, pero kung paano gagawin ang party list system, paano siya, yung kanyang mga specialized provision, yung mga pinaka-minute details of how a party list should work, merong batas na ginawa ang Congress doon. Okay? So Congress in his power to legislate, created the party list law. And this party list law provided for the provision na kahit na political party ka, technically you're not marginalized, you're not underprivileged, for as long as you can create a sectoral group. Say, a liberal party creating a youth sectoral group. So even if they are liberal party in essence, and we know that they are liberal party, ang sinasabi nila sectoral wing kami. So pwede kaming tumakbo sa party list. And that is because of the law. So, if I may say, kung gusto talaga ng tunay na pagbabago sa party list system, hindi yung party list concept, the legal concept of a party list, should be the one to change. It is the law bumalik tayo sa ano ang sinasaad ng Constitution. At ang sinasaad ng Constitution, ang party list para lamang sa mga marginalized at underprivileged. Tanggalin natin yung mga may political mechanism na gumawa ng sectoral wing.
Alright.
For
So,
that.
So how does a group become a party list? I mean, sabihin na natin hindi let's exclude yung mga party list na merong giant machineries, no, yung mga meron silang backer na mga malalaking partido. So sasabihin natin let's assume isang grupo na gustong gumawa ng party list sa Congress, gustong maging represented. How does a group become a party list?
So basically, para maging isa kang legal na party list, you need to register with COMELEC. Okay? Mm-hmm. The COMELEC, under the Omnibus Election Code, has provided for guidelines and also, of course, the party list law, the RA 7941, ito yung batas na ginawa ng Congress, meron siyang mga provision. Una, of course, you need to represent a certain group of people. And that certain group of people should be yung kanyang composition within the group ay documented. So sino-sino yung mga miyembro. At dapat kita na meron talagang advocacy yung grupo na yon. So hindi ibig sabihin na bukas yung election or 2 months yung election biglang may gagawa, may susulpot. Hindi. Kailangan meron kang record that you are indeed advocating for a certain sector. So, yun nga. So, ang ginagawa nitong mga tao na gustong magkaroon ng party list, kung ang election ay 3 years from now, gumagawa na sila ng movement, gumagawa na sila ng mga project to prove that they are indeed representing an advocacy of a sector. Okay? So, ganun ka-utak yung mga taong gustong maging bahagi ng Congress. Pero limited yung kanilang capacity. Or, if not, puno na yung linya nung ayaw naming lumaban dyan kasi kilala na yung pamilya na, yung nasa distrito na yan. So, gagawa na lang kami ng party list. Or, if not, kasi may prohibition rin naman sa Congress na hanggang 3 termino ka lang, after that, pahinga. Kung ayaw mo magpahinga, mag-party list ka. So, yun yung mga tinatawag na contravention of the law na, in a way, as a corruption expert, I see that as a corruption. No? Kasi contravention siya ng batas. Sinasabi ng batas, 3 termino ka lang, magpahinga ka. Ayaw mong magpahinga, natatakot ka na mawala sa kapangyarihan, mawala sa circle of power, tatakbo ka na lang as party list. Hihingin mo sa iyong political party, gawa tayo ng sectoral wing. Ang advocacy natin, kabataan. Kahit na kakaunti lang yung kabataang sumali doon sa organisasyon. O ang atin ay mga babae. Kahit nakakaunti lang yung babaeng sumali, panay lalaki pala. Paano kayong naging women's group? Di ba?
Naging women's party list pero puro lalaki ang
Yes, weird. Those are na dapat iniimbestigahan at talagang sinusuri ng COMELEC bago nila i-accredit. Kaya nga nagkaroon ng issue. Yes.
Oo, no, yung youth party list pero puro matatanda, no? Weird.
Yes. Nagkaroon ng issue yan, ni-raise yan sa COMELEC. Sa COMELEC, si Guanzon is really adamant on allowing this. Kasi nga, nag-iisang voice lang siya sa grupo nila ng mga commissioners. So talo siya kasi majority wins. So na-accredit sila. And the Supreme Court should have checked it. Pero again, sometimes may mga ginagawang missteps ang ating Supreme Court. So even if they are technically supreme because they are the constitutional protectors, sila kasi ang nagsasabi kung constitutional or not. Minsan may mga missteps na ginagawa ang Supreme Court. And that's found in the history of the Supreme Court. There are a lot of books written about that. And they cannot deny that.
Oh, tama yun, no? And so, wait lang. Ilang party list ang nauupo sa Kongreso per term?
Basically, ang provision ng Constitution, if I may read, kasi representation yan. So, base sa bilang ng boto. Okay? So, pag naka 3% ka sa number ng boto, may isa kang seat. So, pwedeng maximum of 3 seat, isang party list lang. Okay?
Oh, okay.
In a time, kasi ang ating Congress is composed of 250 members, which are the district representative, at meron na ngayon na party list. So technically, ang nakaupong party list is roughly 70 plus at this
Oh,
point of
wow.
time. Pero meron doon na may dalawang representative. So depende sa number mo. Kunwari, katulad ng, if I can't recall a particular period, pero may isang electoral period na nakakuha ang bayan muna ng 3 seats for party list.
Oh, okay.
Ang Gabriela, 3 seats. Pero yung mga malilitang boto, 1%, pero pasok pa rin sila sa pangangabilang, nakakapasok.
So for as long as you win the right amount of votes, your party list or your sector through your party list could get represented.
Yes. Kasi ang ini-elect dito is the party list, the sector, hindi mismo yung tao. So mag-allocate lang sila ng seat. One seat if in case you get 3%, then if you get additional 3%, say you got among the numbers of voters, you get say 9%, so automatic 3 yung seat mo.
So, and then yung party list ang nag-allocate kung sino ang members nila ang uupo doon?
Yes, it's the party list.
And then yung representatives na yon na umupo, sila na yung for the entire term, no? Kumaga hindi pwedeng palitan.
There is a case that this happened with Harry Roque, if I'm not mistaken. He is voted out in his party list. So, tinanggal siya. You don't represent us anymore. So, tinanggal siya ng party list niya. So, what the legal case happened is that kailangan bang palitan si Harry Roque or sino na ang ating representative. So, that happened. Nangyari rin yan sa issue nung alagad party list ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Bawal nga yun under the law kasi pag religious organization, bawal ang party list. Pero sila pinayagan. So, again, loophole under the law. So nagkaroon ng away si Kong Marcoleta at yung isang congressman nila, nag-agawan sila ng number na kanino na yung miyembro ng aming party list at dahil nabawasan yung miyembro ni Marcoleta, dapat tanggalin na daw siya kasi hindi siya ang nagre-represent nung aming party list. So may mga ganung usapin. It's still a number. Internal kasi yan eh. Internal, and because it's internal, pwedeng mag-step in ang Congress to police. Siya naman ang magsasabi, sige, we suspend your party list because of the internal issue. Or we don't consider, katulad nung nangyari kay sa isang party list, hindi pumasok yung qualification ng kanilang nominee. So ayaw silang i-accredit ng COMELEC. Because of that, kahit na gusto ng mga congressman na magpasok siya ng representative, hindi pwede. Kasi COMELEC pa. Pero pag na-accredit ng COMELEC, pag nag-away kayo, sige, mag-step in si Congress.
Congress
leadership of Congress.
Si Speaker ang or kahit sino.
The speaker, dapat siya, moto proprio, kasi yan ay turf niya eh. That's his political power.
Siya yung leader ng diba? Siya yung supposedly leader ng Congress. That's right. No? So for example, ito medyo medyo shameless plug. Well anyway, naman so na podcast naman. So for example, itong ating high school Philippine history movement. Pwede ba siyang later on, no, hypothetically, itong high school Philippine history movement, pwede ba siyang maging party list in the future?
Definitely, since we have of course qualified on the requirements under the law that we represent a certain sector, and that sector is teachers of history in high school. So they are not represented by anybody, and there is a definite legislative agenda na tayong isusulong, and basically yun yung sinasabi ng Constitution. To give voice to the underprivileged, to a sector that is not given a voice within the halls of Congress. So, legally, I can say that yes, we are allowed and we can file for a certification with COMELEC in case we look at that certain path in the future.
Alright. So, possible pala, no? I mean, hypothetical. So, any group who meets who meet these requirements, no, can become party list, no. So, and of course, kahit nga hindi na meet yung requirements, may mga party list na umuusbong dahil let's face it, ang kanilang mga meron silang mga kuya, meron silang mga big brother organizations na nag-i-sponsor sa kanila. Pero of course, yan yung totoo, may mga ganyang nangyayari sa ating sistema, pero wag nating kalilimutan na yung spirit, no, yung essence at yung significance nitong party list system is really for sectoral and for marginalized people who are not represented by their district representatives. Totoo na maraming mga bagay na nangyayari sa ating sistema na hindi maganda, but lahat naman ng sistema ay may mga bagay na hindi maganda, and it is our duty as people, and it is the duty of the government to protect our systems from these malicious and these perverse actions. So tulungan yan. It's again, it takes two to tango. So,
and if I may add, basically that's the beauty of history. So all of the experience that we have with our government, like what happened during martial law, the learnings that they had, they created the 1987 Constitution because of the learnings that they experienced in the 1973 Constitution. So whatever we are experiencing right now, be it good or bad, these are lessons of history, and we can gain something out of it. At kailangan nating isolidify yung mga learnings na yun para magbigay at gumawa ng mas magandang hinaharap. As students of history, we are all students of history. I did not academically study history, but I consider myself as a student of history. So whatever is happening right now, the problems that we encounter with Congress, with the executive, with the judiciary, with the EG case, we need to reflect on those and create a better world for the next generation.
Thank you for that wrap up, Sir Eman. Totoo nga na maraming mga bagay ang hindi perpekto ang ating sistema. Hindi perpekto ang ating saligang batas. Maraming mga bagay na pwedeng abusuhin. Maraming mga bagay na hindi nakasaad na naabuso ng mga taong gustong magkaroon ng mas maraming kapangyarihan, gustong maraming pera, gusto ng maraming material na bagay. Pero sa likod nito, alam natin na ang pinaka-importante sa lahat ay ang ating saligang batas ay saligang batas ng taong bayan. At ating responsibilidad ay protektahan at pangalagaan at bantayan ang ating saligang batas mula sa mga taong susubukin na ito ay tanggalin mula sa atin. After all, okay, we are the sovereign Filipino people under the Constitution, and it is within our power to make this system work. So maraming salamat po sa ating bisita na si Sir Eman Kaliwan, at maraming salamat sa ating mga tagapakinig ngayong gabi. Sana po ay meron tayong natutuhan sa gabi na ito. Abangan po ninyo ang susunod na episode. Muli, sa ngalan po ni Mr. Jamaico Ignacio, na aking co-host, ako po ang inyong lingkod na si Kevin Samson. At ito ang History Real, ang katotohanan sa ating kasaysayan at lipunan. Paalam!